afternoon all. Luis Miguel X from BRIK BC Projects. Another week of what is real estate tokenization. Thank you for joining us. While we just wait a few minutes, see the Humble Miners join us live. Thank you, Humble, for joining us. Today's session is we thought we'd talk about in terms of blockchains to tokenize assets on, and obviously what's been happening with the SEC in America in terms of naming a few blockchains, their native tokens, as unregistered securities. So we'll talk about that in terms of impact on tokenized real estate. But before we sort of start with the show today, probably just sort of reflect on the past weeks, see what things have been happening, So this has been recorded, so if you don't have a chance to join us live, it is an open mic today. So as we start, again, if you'd like to join us and want a mic, please ask for a mic and I'll add you. But so it's been recorded, so you can always catch up on the recordings. We do share it out to on our various social media platforms. In terms of our weekly show, what is real estate tokenization? But look, I'll just reflect on the past week, see things that have been happening around the blockchain industry, especially with in terms of impacting tokenized real estate, and also always like to sort of keep things in terms of what's happening on the Ravencoin blockchain as well, because that's where actually we at BRIK BC tokenize our real estate properties. Look, in terms of obviously, as I sort of mentioned earlier, with the SEC in the US naming Binance US with some notices, with some issues, and probably more importantly from today's topic in terms of listing a few cryptos, a few native tokens of blockchains like Cardano, Solana, and obviously Binance. That's just a name. I think it was around 14 all up. But again, some of these are blockchains, and has obviously an impact in terms of going forward. We don't know what the ramifications are as yet, but I think the ball started to roll in terms of this notice issued to Binance US, obviously the biggest crypto exchange in the world. But as I said, more importantly in terms of from the naming of in that notice to Binance, and the naming of the specific unregistered securities. So again, we'll talk a bit more deeper about that on today's show. In terms of the other thing that's popped up, shout out to Mike Fiddleman from Smart Blocks. He also has Kryptonize WebTube channel. Again, he done a bit of research, and through his big advocate in terms of tokenizing assets, especially tokenizing real estate, and Mark and his team been doing some compiling some research and talking to various players, including ourselves, who are tokenizing, and they've compiled in terms of top 32 people in terms of tokenizing assets. And again, it's an honor to be on that list. And we also had some people from the Ravencoin community as well, who were also named on that list. Tron Black and Dark Pepe, in terms of, or Klaus Scanning, in terms of, obviously they help people tokenize their properties on a blockchain, creating the IT platform, as they are one of our service providers. Carl Sunderland from SDM Markets in Miami, and Sarah Jenkins also from that. They are very much who brought Ravencoin to DigiShares to be able to token as a blockchain to tokenize real estate property, and we're forever thankful for Sarah Jenkins and Dan, her partner, and in terms of what they've done for Ravencoin to make Klaus and DigiShares aware in terms of the capabilities of Ravencoin, and obviously, as I said, forever thankful for them to bringing Ravencoin blockchain for a place to tokenize real estate on. So shout out to Sarah and Dan. So as I said, it's an honor to be listed on those 32 leaders in the tokenizing of assets industry, and that we've actually shared that around on our posts. So Thank you, Mark Fiddleman and his team, for continuing to be a big advocate in terms of what's happening in tokenizing assets and tokenizing real estate. He also always supportive also of the Ravencoin blockchain, so thank you, sir. What else has been happening? I'll probably just shout out. There's from a Ravencoin in terms on the Ravencoin blockchain, shout out to Sakron. He actually created a 8-bit game launched last week on the Ravencoin blockchain. So he's forever advocating and obviously providing information and awareness in terms of the capabilities of the Ravencoin blockchain. So to get people involved and be able to start using, and he's created a fantastic 8-bit game on the chain. So shout out to Sir Crone. Thank you, sir, for always being advocating in terms of what Ravencoin blockchain is doing and what the capabilities are. But yeah, so what we do, might start today's formalities without being too formal. Shout out to Brian who's joined us live. Thank you, sir. Yeah, look, in terms of, this is a weekly show I host about what is real estate tokenization. Today's an open mic session, so sometimes we have speakers given the relevant topics, but today it's an open mic, so anybody can ask for a mic and come and join the conversation. Today we're focusing around in terms of blockchains to tokenize real estate on, and also in terms of what impact will the SEC notice to Binance last week in regards to naming some blockchains as unregistered securities. So we'll delve into those. But in terms of, if you've listened for the first time and you're basically listening in terms of what to learn in terms of what is real estate tokenization all about, but probably just a very simple form is it's basically fractionalizing a real estate property. Think of a puzzle. Those pieces of puzzle make up the property. So now anybody can actually buy a piece of that puzzle, and those puzzles are recorded on the blockchain. So in a public ledger, anybody can see the activities, and nothing can be changed once it's registered. In terms of once you buy one of those property tokens, so basically it's recorded. Every time you sell and buy, it's recorded on the blockchain, whether it be Ethereum blockchain, a Ravencoin blockchain, whether it be Avalanche, whether it be Solana, Cardano blockchains. So it's the fundamentals all the same in terms of how property can be tokenized now on the blockchain. So again, it's just now the ability for people to be exposed to the benefits income in terms of real estate, without having to buy the whole property, and then they can just buy a fraction and be exposed to the benefits that comes from that property. Obviously, in terms of myself, in terms of we tokenize real estate ourselves here, Australian Properties, my colleagues around the world are doing the various platforms in terms of their models. So again, check out in terms of different ways to do it, but the fundamentals are the same. Probably should introduce myself in terms of, I'm Miguel. I'm the founder and the managing director of BRIK BC Projects. As I said, we tokenize Australian real estate property. But yeah, look, into getting stuck into today's topics. As I said, today we're talking about the blockchains, and I guess in terms of probably just to bring it back to the fundamentals, a blockchain is a public ledger. That a property token is tokenized on. So typically layer 1, but sometimes there are other different models, but we tokenize on the Ravencoin blockchain, so it is a layer 1 blockchain, and chains like Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, they also are all layer 1 blockchains, Ethereum of course. But again, today's topic just going to be focusing around in terms of given the SEC notice to Binance as to the impact that might have on the blockchain that people have tokenized their properties on. And again, it's a topic that's how long is this going to drag on? What are the impacts in terms of those blockchains that have been named? What's the issues around it? Is it important? What we've actually done, I've actually put some pinned tweets up here just around the topic of today, in terms of obviously just inviting the Ravencoin community to come up and sort of talk about some of the key points around the blockchain as to in terms of the obviously whole topic being whether it's a registered security or not. So I've actually got a pinned tweet there. Was that the third one in? Again, inviting all blockchains in terms of talking about their specifics around their blockchains around today's topic. That was the fourth one in. Just basic current blockchains that are tokenizing real estate, as I said earlier. You've got Avalanche, Polymash, you've got Binance, Ethereum, Ravencoin. So just to name a few that are doing it. What else I got here? The last one. Both I just put some links there in terms of obviously us knowing Ravencoin pretty well. Even that's where we tokenize our properties. I put some links there to sort of as a deeper around the fundamentals of the Ravencoin, and some links to talking about that topic in terms of whether it's a registered security or not. The Ravencoin blockchain is a fork with Bitcoin, so it was custom built to tokenize assets on it, and so it's taking the same pathway as a Bitcoin, and obviously Bitcoin has been listed. It's not a security. So it's, I guess, following those same fundamentals, how they came to existence. So again, just some information there on the Ravencoin blockchain. But yes, I guess in terms of if we from a business that does tokenize real estate on it, when you're choosing the blockchain to tokenize those properties on, obviously it's a critical decision, because again. Just like we've seen with XRP in terms of how long it's dragged on, in terms of as a blockchain, and given obviously with the court proceedings and all the issues that's been dragging on, and still no decision on it as to which way it's whether the SEC is going to win that case or XRP is going to win the case. Again, it's been dragging on, and it does cause a bit of uncertainty, I guess. So again, we're sort of now into the next stage where SEC has become obviously aggressive in naming more cryptos, tokens, that obviously with the blockchains that they are a purpose for, and given obviously tokenized real estate is being tokenized on some of those platforms. What are the issues? And I guess it comes back to. As a business, tokenizing on a blockchain, things going to be negativity going to be dragging on for a while. What impact does that have on your project, on your business? Given obviously this is all very early, in terms of we're all trying to bring exposure to mainstream in terms of the new way of getting exposure to the benefits of real estate. What does that mean to those people that are coming in for the first time into blockchain? And obviously the benefits, and articulate the benefits and what you can do now in tokenized real estate, and also convincing people that are also already involved in blockchain activities. Again, having and I'm just using Cardano as an example, given that you can tokenize assets on it. What does that mean? So for businesses gone and tokenize properties on it, given the next stage of the SEC obviously taking action, no doubt, directly against those blockchains, what does that mean in terms of that you've tokenized on it? Is there going to be a negative point towards it in terms of your project, your properties that you've tokenized on the Cardano blockchain? Is that going to be a massive negative in moving forward? And again, it's in terms of the branding around it, branding impact is people basically going to say, well, anything that's Cardano, we're just not going to go there because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. So again, this is something that people that are planning to tokenize real estate, people that are looking to investing, are going to be asking those questions as to whether that blockchain is actually being named by the SEC as to obviously what they're going to be targeting, and again going through that process as to whether they are obviously proving that they or making a claim that they are is an unregistered security. For example, as I said, Cardano. I'm sure Charles Hoskins will have plenty to say about it. And I guess in terms of the actions that's been taken against the exchange Binance, that's sort of come out of all this. No doubt Binance, obviously being the biggest exchange in the world, no doubt they'll actually be fighting from their perspective as an exchange. But this then it sort of comes back to the individual blockchains that have been named in there. And obviously, again, no doubt action will be taken against those change given the first stage of the SEC. What does that mean in terms of them trying to fight back? And because again, we're talking about something that there is no legislation in place. So it's something that they're basically fining people, issuing notices against people, where to this day there's actually no legislation in the US as from a US perspective, and I guess all countries around the world are looking at at America with the SEC, what direction that sort of takes it in. Got a humble mind. I hope that speaker should be working for you. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Well, thanks for joining, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Also, shout out to Security, just joined us live too. Security Token, thanks for joining us as well. But I think this is all issues that obviously I think that's put a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons last week with the to obviously with the notice to Binance. I know if we have a look at Ravencoin blockchain, Humble, which obviously you're very active involved with the Ravencoin community, and obviously you have deep knowledge about the Ravencoin community and how Ravencoin blockchain works. I guess from your perspective, do you want to sort of share with us in terms of around the Bitcoin, the fundamentals as to, we know it should never be classed as a security because obviously of the process it took to how it came to exist and being a fork of Bitcoin. Probably from your perspective, do you want to sort of talk to us about in terms of some of those key points around the Ravencoin blockchain?
Yeah, sure. I think this is why a lot of people have been drawn to Ravencoin. Is like you said, it's the fundamentals at its core. It's a fork of Bitcoin. It's a proof of work blockchain. There's no pre-mine. There's no pre-sale of coins, and I think that's like going through all like the SEC's notes. I mean, that's one of the cornerstones of being I guess put aside as whether it's not really defining them as commodities yet. I mean, the whole thing, it's all a huge debacle at this point. And I think that's why and you see it in the markets, everybody's kind of unsure of like which way they're going to go. I mean, it is frustrating. But at its core, like Ravencoin definitely, for all the key points made that defines a security, Ravencoin and like the big one, Bitcoin, aren't a part of those categories because of its nature. That it's not you're not staking. It's proof of work. There's no pre-mine. There's no pre-sale. There's no head organization that basically runs the network. So I think those are like the fundamentals that are kind of like setting it aside. And there's been comments made in the past by like head figures like Gensler and basically like saying like, no, these aren't considered securities. But obviously with everything going on, the whole market's definitely spooked. It's a lot going on. But I've been going through like I think a lot of people like have seen it like on the horizon. I mean, at some point, because there are like a lot of the ones that have been identified as securities. I mean, idealistically, I think this is why, like myself, like I didn't develop on other chains like Avalanche or Solana. because like there's like they were definitely tiptoeing the line of like being just crossing that line between whether it's proof of work or like a head organization, like being able to just like it's more of a business rather than a decentralized network. So I think that's, I don't know, I think some of it are clear securities, especially when you talk like staking services. So it's not, I don't know, I'm not too surprised of like everything that's coming out right now. But yeah.
And the thing is, if you have a look at the like Ethereum, for example, although it started off as a proof of work and obviously transitioned to proof of stake last year. Again, that's put a big question in terms of how Ethereum will be classing going forward, because those fundamentals have changed now.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think everybody should be worried about like that. And you brought up like businesses that are building on these blockchains is like that's something you have to take into account, especially when you're putting your time, your money into your business. You're building on a blockchain, and then if it's deemed a security, like you never know when this is like stuff is going to come out. Like this was kind of a surprise that this came out over the last couple of weeks about all these other blockchains. It's like you're putting your money into it, and it could cripple your business at the end of the day. So people definitely have to take the time and really make sure that they know what they're getting into and it's definitely something to think about. It's not something you want to take a chance on, especially like if people are making their own coins, stuff like that. You don't want to go to jail or get a fine for it. It's dangerous stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, like, if I'm using Ethereum as an example, because obviously, we 3 years ago ourselves, like, we were looking in terms of what blockchain to tokenize on, and at the time, this is even before Ravencoin sort of came on the radar in terms of tokenizing real estate. But we went down the track of looking at Ethereum and in terms of doing on the Ethereum initially, and all things focused on that. But at the time, there was actually no thing that back then there was actually no even talk about there was going to be transitioning into a proof of stake blockchain. So again, it's the centralization of it as it is changed the fundamentals of it. That people spend a lot of money and time and choosing the blockchain, and then you basically get switched on in terms of the fundamentals of it. So that's a massive thing. And we switched to the Ravencoin blockchain because we didn't feel comfortable with this. Obviously start off as gas fees being a major issue, but then end up having all these other issues as well at the same time, and obviously being totally different in terms of how Ravencoin, the fundamental Ravencoin being a totally decentralized blockchain, and obviously following those fundamentals of Bitcoin and how it came to its existence was some major issues that we decided to switch to Ravencoin. So again, as you said, it's a massive decision for a business to choose that blockchain and choose it right, because you don't be switching blockchains too many times, because there's things that obviously fundamentally that's it's just like impossible in some cases to try to be able to switch blockchains, given that you've tokenized something on one and things happen and all of a sudden you've got to be changing to another blockchain. So that's a challenge in itself if that was to happen. But businesses that have tokenized on these blockchains that the SEC named last week. The thing is, like, if you're there, what is it going to mean? Does that mean, because obviously you're sitting on that blockchain, on this layer one blockchain with your property tokens, and what is it? Can the SEC shut that blockchain down? What are the consequences? Because obviously, you're up shit's creek. Up shit's creek in the sense that you got to obviously make a decision to where do we switch to, and all the stuff that comes from that, the consequences in terms of the switching, and again, it's it just puts a negative tone also on that business in terms of you've been doing this and now obviously doing that, and you should have known, and all the negativity that comes from it, and that's the critical things with any business, choosing that what blockchain to tokenize. You would have seen quite a things that over the years, Humble, whether it be other blockchains and some of the challenges that people having these issues. Whether it's again, whether it doesn't matter what asset it is.
Too.
Sorry.
Especially like if you talk about like Ethereum, like if you're building a business on Ethereum, like you're not talking like a very simple starting point. Like you've got to pay a lot of money. Hopefully, if you're a creator, you know how to do like contracts on Ethereum, because if you don't know how to do contracts, you're paying somebody to basically write the script for the contract on however you're building your token. It's pricey, and then just like the transaction fees. You look back and it's a lot of stuff wasted over time. And then like you have to think about like what's really scary. I think a lot of people can remember back to when just like there's been periods of time where people hop from chain to chain because of like transaction fees, because they're like trying to get out of it for some reason, whatever the reason is, and then it clogs up. You're paying more fees. It's not a road that you want to go down. It's scary.
Absolutely.
Especially if you, like you mentioned, like if the SEC or somebody goes to the extreme that like, hey, this blockchain is got to stop at this date. I mean, obviously crypto is crypto, and people can still keep it running. It's decentralized in nature for the most part. Ethereum's kind of dangerous right now because you also have all these the nodes that basically are compliant with. I can't remember. There's a site that actually shows you nodes that are actually compliant with that, basically like scanning who and where the transaction's coming from. So if you're on like the bad boy list, they don't have to process your transaction. So that's scary too.
And that's the thing in terms of obviously with the Ethereum part being at the sort of the timeline of decentralization to decentralization at the two extremes. Ethereum has to be at the end of the centralization end of the spectrum. To have something. I'm not so much about Ethereum because it's still one of those ones that Gary Gensler still will not answer in terms of given his prior history with the Ethereum. Is like, but again, just with any chain that's always been known is that what will be the thing in terms of those ones that are more centralized, like probably Solana is probably a perfect example in terms of how centralized it is. The blockchain. What would happen if they if they basically shut down that chain? Because given the centralization platform that it is, that could be a realistic story in terms of SEC actually ordering the shutdown of the chain. And again, I know some guys out there, some colleagues out there that actually have tokenized on their properties on the Solana blockchain. So again, it's something I guess if you've been researching in terms of which chain to tokenize, I think you got to really do your deep research and what is the consequences of these being named. For me, from our perspective, I'm 99.9% confident that we'll never have an issue in terms of tokenizing our properties on the Ravencoin blockchain. Only because it's been made a point. The Bitcoin blockchain is classed as a commodity, and given the Ravencoin blockchains follow the same fundamentals how it came about and the processes and so forth where it is today. For me, as I said, with given the time we spent and where we are today moving forward, I'm 99.9% sure that we'll never have an issue. And again, it's sort of, we can only go by the, in terms of what the SEC, the points they made in terms of what they class security and not a security in the whole process of it. I guess we can only go by those points those notes that they put out there, and in terms of how they see things. So again, because of these blockchains, most of these blockchains are obviously derived in the US, and every other the world's going to follow it. From my perspective anyway, in terms of what we do here at BRIK, we're 99.999% confident that we'll never have an issue with Ravencoin blockchain in terms of using where we're putting our properties on. But again, it's something everybody's got to do their own research. I guess we put some points here, some pinned tweets that helps people to do the research from a Ravencoin, but was what we looked at. But yeah.
What is you mentioned that you talked to a couple people that have built on the chains that have been deemed a security. What exactly is going through their minds right now?
Yeah, I haven't spoken since last week's notice to Binance, where they've listed obviously those ones on there. But I think they'd be you'd have to go when you start looking at any business, you look at your risks. And you have to start talking about the risks. What if scenario? Okay, what's Plan B? You have to start talking about Plan B in terms of those risks, because again, you can't afford as a business that you've actually tokenized these properties on let's use Solana as an example. You can't assume everything's going to be okay. You have to already put some actions in place to make, so if something was to happen in terms of closure of blockchain, you've got to actually basically put those actions in place. But look, I haven't spoken to them since then. But if I was in their shoes, I know what I'll be doing, and you got to be on the front foot. You got to have to look at what is the alternative. So look, in terms of obviously it wouldn't be an issue. It's just basically there's going to be costs involved, there's going to be time involved, and I think it's going to be a bit of loss in confidence as well, because as I said, people that come and buy your property tokens, they're assuming that you've done all your research, and we all know it's a moving target with the SEC, but at the end of the day, you want to have that confidence. When you do it on that chain, you're confident about it.
And I think the problem is there's so many people that are in crypto for not necessarily all the right reasons, and I think obviously that a lot of people obviously drives volume, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of downturning. And I think whales are definitely taking advantage of the situation and not making it any better, and scaring the majority of just regular investors, and that's why we're seeing a huge downturn. Whether it's just a big Bitcoin or whatever coin it is, whether it's deemed a security or not, I think that's why we're seeing a huge downturn. And honestly, I think the bad thing about everything that's happening right now, as far as this kind of really choppy water, whether how to define what's a security or not, and I don't think we're going to see resolution for a very long time. Obviously, we know how well the U.S. court system works, and it's very, very lengthy process. And I'm not sure what that's going to mean for the crypto markets for over the next year or so, maybe 2 years. It'll be interesting. I'm not sure.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. I think I think it's what sort of gives us a bit of confidence. Obviously, Europe is taking its own approach from last month when they made some try to provide clarity, especially around tokenized assets in particular, and some of the exchanges and so forth. So hopefully, it sort of sets things in the right frame in going forward. That hopefully the SEC can sort of see what Europe is doing, and but again, we've got different variables in play in terms of the traditional financial systems and governments, especially obviously from a US perspective, given the what the stuff that goes on. So again, it's whether they can get away from that and be able to take a more of a proactive approach in terms of what blockchain can mean to the world and what it can mean to America. Because I think, unfortunately, if they continue going down this sort of negative, sort of pathway as they have been in America, is that it's going, business is going to move offshore. As we've seen, obviously with Coinbase making their point already, they're going to move their exchange offshore. Whether you like it or not doesn't really matter, but it's the point that a lot of businesses will seek other countries to be able to continue operating. Actually, see Quading's joining us. Hey, Quading, if you like the mic more than give you a mic if you like to join the conversation, which I know you're very passionate about in terms of Ravencoin in particular and some of the current issues. So if you can join us, ask for the mic. But
on a positive note, for you, BRIK, I think you guys are very well positioned. Obviously, you chose Ravencoin, a much safer option in these murky waters right now, as far as what to build on. But I think you guys did your due diligence, how you actually went through the process and registered your project and did it the right legal way. So I think you guys are positioned well.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. It sometimes might take a bit longer, but given obviously, as I said, with the Ethereum, we started off there, and then we knew that wasn't going to be sustainable in the long term in terms of the fundamentals and all those things. And obviously, we were fortunate to obviously switch to the Ravencoin blockchain. And looking, as I sort of mentioned earlier in the show, I mean, we do have forever thankful to Sarah Jenkins and Dan Jenkins because they were tokenizing real estate and they actually put the Ravencoin blockchain forward to DigiShares, and that's how obviously we've sort of become first alert of DigiShares. So again, if Sarah and Dan are listening, shout out, and forever thankful for you to set the pathway in terms of where we are today to be able to tokenize on the Ravencoin blockchain. But Dan and Sarah, their plans is also tokenize real estate on the chain, and that's how the whole journey started. They've been delayed with a few things, but they're still part of their plans. So again, it's one of those things. Obviously, Dan and Sarah have been around a long time since pretty much since day one with the Ravencoin blockchain, and they mind it, understand the fundamentals of it, and so again, great people like that continue to obviously push great platforms like Ravencoin for people to have a bit of a heads up in terms of what Ravencoin can do for businesses like ours. It'd be interesting as we sort of move forward in terms of obviously with these notices issued to Binance and Coinbase as to what steps they take next, given the listing of those on those coins, those blockchains on their notice to Binance. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But hopefully humble that given some of the posts I saw actually over the last week, I think the consideration by the US government to actually restructure the SEC and possibly remove it.
That's all I saw on Twitter today. Just get rid of Gensler. Man, so, it's getting ridiculous at this point.
Yeah. Look, in terms of as we sort of wind up, any closing thoughts, Humble, from today?
No, I just want to say thank you for hosting these spaces. I know a lot of people listen to them on the road. If anybody is interested in more Ravencoin spaces, you can check out @Raven_friends. And if you go to the pinned tweet, there's usually a weekly calendar of spaces you can hop in, listen in, and then if you join in the Ravencoin Discord, you can also pick out the calendar events in there. But that's really all. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, before you go, mate, can you tell us about your great game that you have, the Humble Miner game?
Yeah, sure. So I created the Humble Miner. Oh my gosh, it's been live almost 3 years at this point. man, I'm starting to get those gray hairs. It's a game on iOS and Android on mobile, and basically it's a free to play game. You can download it off the App Store, free to play, and you can earn some crypto, whether it's Bitcoin, Ravencoin. You can also earn some NFTs. Some people have made out really well and earned some NFTs, sold those NFTs. Also, a lot of the we also have one of the first proof of work coin that's built on Ravencoin, called the PIK bit, and you can earn those PIK bits, trade those coins for other NFTs or Ravencoin. So you can learn more about it if you click on the Humble Miner, and you can actually click on the website link. We learn a little more about it. We also have a Discord. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And again, we always appreciate, in terms of, obviously as a community, especially Ravencoin community, we always appreciate all the great work you do, Humble, in terms of educating, and obviously through the game, which is it's a great way also for people to coming in for the first time to actually start using, and some of the things in terms of how to use Ravencoin and in terms of within the game and the activities around it. So again, we thank you for what you do for the community, Ravencoin community, and always being at the forefront and helping people coming in for the first time, and I've seen it firsthand. So thanks, man. Really appreciate all the work you do.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I really wanted to start that game just to show people how easy it is to use crypto. And I host a lot of spaces just like yourself to kind of talk about how easy it is to build on Ravencoin, and how cheap the transaction costs are. And that's honestly why I swayed towards Ravencoin, is because for a game, obviously there's a lot of rewards that come along with a game, and in order to do any kind of transaction on the blockchain, you have to pay some kind of cost. And Ravencoin is one of those blockchains that it's super cheap, and it definitely makes sense to be able to transact on Ravencoin for the cost, but also just ownership of what you earn. It's all on a layer 1 blockchain, so there's no contracts involved, and it's not like Solana. If you earn an NFT from the Humble Miner, I can't just turn it into a banana. So that whatever you earn, whether it's gold, treasure, whatever it is, an NFT, I have no way of changing that NFT once you've earned it and it's sent to your address. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, in terms of, really appreciate everybody for joining live today. People that didn't have a chance to join live, it has been recorded. We'll share around in other platforms as well. So, but again, it's, I guess, sort of bringing it back in terms of people that are looking as to what blockchains to tokenize their real estate projects on. Again, you're just making sure that you have a look what the current environment is, and what, obviously, especially what the SEC is doing at the moment in terms of naming some of these blockchains as being unregistered securities. Do your research. All we can do here is provide in terms of our journey, and some information that we've pinned up here in terms of Ravencoin as an option to tokenize your properties on. Have a look at some of the key points and fundamentals around it. And so if you're planning, or you have, and you're looking at an alternative blockchain to tokenize your properties on, have a look at Ravencoin. And again, it's some of the people here. You're more than welcome to reach out in terms of quoting the Humble Miners, the Chrome, Bonobon, Evra. These are all people that are also involved in the Ravencoin community. People like quoting in the Humble been around a long time. And obviously, if there's any things you want to ask from a Ravencoin blockchain perspective, then they're more than happy to answer anybody's questions and thoughts. The DMs are open, so our DMs are open. So there's plenty of people around, and I know when we first came into Ravencoin, there was great. It was a great experience in terms of being able to approach people and asking things, and be able to go straight also to people who are founders of the Ravencoin blockchain, like Tron Black, and be able to ask those questions also directly. So again, it's an environment that always very supportive, especially with people coming in for the first time, to be able to provide some guidance and some information. So again, it's all here. So again, hope this sort of helps anybody's journey that's looking at tokenizing real estate on a blockchain, to making sure you actually tokenize on the right one. So thank you all for joining. Have a great day, great evening, great afternoon, depending what part of the world you're at. And it will be same day next week of what is real estate tokenization. Stay safe and bye for now.